Hi, welcome to the Aftermath Tales. Ready for a new story? Very well, let's begin.
They say love conquers all. What a joke. Love doesn't conquer ambition, and it sure as hell doesn't conquer shame. I found that out the hard way when I caught my husband, holding hands with his coworker in the parking lot of Romano's, the fancy Italian place he'd never take me to because it was too expensive. But apparently not too expensive for Miss Perfect Carla Evans, granddaughter of money and everything I'll never be. My name is Alyssa Carlson, and I'm 35 years old. 3 years ago, I thought I'd found my forever. Now I'm wondering if I was just a placeholder until something better came along. I worked, since he wanted me to cut back, as a merchandiser at Thompson Distribution Company. You know those perfectly aligned rows of soup cans and cereal boxes you see at the grocery store? That's my art. My peace. While other people stress about boardroom meetings and quarterly reports, I find my zen arranging products on shelves. Call it weird, call it simple, I don't care. It's honest work, and it makes me happy. Or it used to, before Louis started making me feel ashamed of finding joy in it. 3 years ago, I was restocking the canned meat aisle at Fairway Market when this gorgeous man appeared at the end of my row. And I mean gorgeous, like he'd stepped off the cover of GQ magazine. Tall, perfectly styled dark hair, eyes that could make you forget your own name. He looked completely lost, scanning the shelves with this adorable, confused expression. "Excuse me," he said, and even his voice was perfect. "I'm looking for tomato sauce, but I feel like I'm in a corn maze." I actually laughed, which surprised me because I'm usually shy around strangers, especially ridiculously handsome ones. "Aisle 7, I said, pointing down the way. "Right past the pasta." "Thank you." He smiled, and I swear the fluorescent lights got brighter. "I'm Louis, by the way." "Alyssa," I replied. He didn't leave. Instead, he leaned against my cart and watched me work. "You make that look easy." "It's just cans," I said, but I was blushing. "No, it's more than that. You look content, happy. I don't see that much in my line of work." That's how it started. He came back the next week, supposedly for groceries, but really just to talk. Then the week after that. By the 4th visit, he asked me out for coffee. By the 6th month, I was head over heels. By the 1st year, he'd proposed with a ring that probably cost more than I made in 3 months. "You're different from anyone I've ever met," he told me the night he proposed. "You don't want anything from me except me. You're real, Alyssa. You're peaceful." I should have asked him what he meant by different. I should have wondered why peaceful sounded almost like he was describing a pet instead of the woman he wanted to marry. The wedding was small. His parents, Larry and Diane Carlson, made it clear from day one that I wasn't their kind of person. I never understood what that meant. They lived off retirement benefits just like my parents did, drove older cars, shopped at the same discount stores. But somehow in their minds I was beneath them. Maybe because I was happy with my simple job. Maybe because I didn't want to climb some invisible social ladder. "She's not ambitious," I overheard Diane tell her sister at our wedding reception. "Louis could do so much better." I smiled and pretended I hadn't heard, just like I always did. Louis loved me, that's all that mattered. Or so I thought. The first year of marriage was bliss. Louis would pick me up after work sometimes, and we'd grab dinner at little hole-in-the-wall places. He'd tell me about his day selling cars, the difficult customers, the big commissions. I'd tell him about the new product displays I'd set up, how I'd reorganized the entire frozen food section to improve traffic flow. He seemed genuinely interested, asking questions about my techniques, even suggesting we drive to other stores so he could see my work. "You have this gift," he'd say, watching me explain why certain products sold better at eye level. "You understand people, what they want, how they move through spaces. It's actually pretty brilliant." Those were the good days. The days when I thought maybe his parents were wrong. Maybe I was enough for him just as I was. But then he got promoted to sales manager 6 months ago, and everything started to shift. The change wasn't sudden. It was like watching a photograph fade in the sun. Gradual, almost imperceptible at first, until one day you realize the image you're looking at bears no resemblance to what it used to be. It started with the company parties. Suddenly, there were networking events I needed to attend, dinners with important clients where I felt like an imposter in my Target dress while other wives wore designer everything. Louis would introduce me as my wife, Alyssa, and then quickly pivot to talk about business, leaving me standing there with nothing to contribute to conversations about market trends and quarterly projections. Maybe you should think about getting something a little more elevated for these events, he suggested after one particularly awkward evening where I'd spent most of the time hiding by the appetizer table. You know, something that fits the occasion better. Elevated, as if I was somehow beneath the occasion just by being myself. That's when he started suggesting I think about career advancement. The conversations always started the same way. "You're so smart, Alyssa. You could do more than just stock shelves, as if arranging a store display that increased sales by 15% was nothing. As if the satisfaction I found in creating order from chaos was somehow less valuable than whatever he did in his glass office. "I like my job," I'd say. "I know, but don't you want to grow? Challenge yourself? Maybe take some business classes, learn about marketing or management?" The subtext was clear. Don't you want to become someone worth being married to? When I suggested working part-time instead of quitting entirely, a compromise I thought showed I was willing to meet him halfway, he reluctantly agreed, but I could see the disappointment in his eyes. "If you're happy with less," he said, and that word less cut deeper than he probably intended. Or maybe he intended it exactly that way. Then came Carla Evans. At first, she was just another name mentioned at dinner. Carla had this great idea for the spring sales campaign. Carla thinks we should expand our luxury line. But gradually, her name started appearing more frequently, always followed by some glowing description of her latest achievement or brilliant insight. The company Christmas party was when I first saw them together. Really saw them. Carla was everything I wasn't. Polished, confident, talking business with the big shots while wearing a dress that probably cost more than my monthly salary. She was beautiful in that effortless way that comes with money and privilege, her laugh carrying across the room like music. And when she talked to Louis, when she touched his arm just a little too long, when he looked at her like she was saying something profound instead of just discussing sales figures, I knew. But I didn't want to know. So I pretended not to notice how he started working late more often, how he stopped asking about my day, how he'd scroll through his phone during dinner instead of talking to me, his thumbs moving rapidly across the screen with an urgency he never showed when texting me. "Big presentation tomorrow," he'd say when I'd try to start a conversation. "Carla and I are pitching the new luxury package to the Evans family." Carla and I, when did they become a unit? He started suggesting I work on myself, maybe take some business classes or network more. As if the problem wasn't that he was falling for someone else, but that I wasn't good enough to keep his attention. As if being content with my life was somehow a character flaw that needed fixing. Last week he took me to Romano's, the expensive Italian place he'd always said was too pricey for a regular dinner. But there we were, sitting across from each other at a white-clothed table, him scrolling through his phone while my chicken parmigiana got cold. "This is nice," I said, trying to salvage what I'd hoped would be a romantic evening. He didn't look up. "Maybe we should do this more often. You know, get dressed up, go somewhere special." "Sure," he said, but his attention was clearly elsewhere, on his screen, on work, on her. I should have known then that this dinner wasn't about us. It was about him getting comfortable with the idea of bringing someone else here. Someone who would appreciate the ambiance, who would order wine without checking the prices, who would fit into this elegant setting like she belonged. Someone like Carla. Today, when I drove by Romano's on my way home from work, I saw them in the parking lot. My husband and his coworker, holding hands like teenagers, looking at each other like they were the only two people in the world. The man who once said my contentment was what made him fall in love apparently decided that same contentment was what was holding him back. The woman I am. The woman who finds joy in simple things, who doesn't need status or wealth to be happy, isn't enough anymore. I'm still sitting at our kitchen table when I hear his key in the lock at 11:47 p.m. I know the exact time because I've been watching the clock for the past 3 hours, my phone positioned carefully beside my water glass, recording app already running. He thinks I'm simple. He's about to learn just how wrong he is. "Hey," Louis says, trying to sound casual as he walks into the kitchen. His hair is slightly mussed, his shirt wrinkled in a way that tells me everything I need to know about how he spent his evening. "You're up late. I saw you today." My voice is steady, calm. I've had 3 hours to practice this conversation in my head. "Saw me?" He opens the refrigerator, probably buying time. "Where?" "Romano's parking lot, with Carla." His hand freezes on a bottle of water. For just a second, I see panic flash across his face before he recovers. "Oh, we were just discussing the Henderson account. Big client meeting tomorrow." "Holding hands? What?" He turns around, and I can see him calculating, trying to figure out exactly what I saw. "Alyssa, you're being ridiculous. It was nothing. Holding hands is nothing." "You probably just misunderstood what you were seeing. Maybe she was showing me something on her phone, or—" I lean back in my chair, studying his face. My phone continues recording silently beside me. "So if I go to the dealership tomorrow and ask Carla about this romantic dinner you two had, she'll tell me it was just business?" His eyes narrow, and something shifts in his expression. The mask he's been wearing slips just a little. "You're not going to do that." "Why not?" I keep my voice level, curious. "If it's just business, she won't mind clarifying things for me." "Because—" he stops himself, jaw clenching. "Because it's embarrassing, Alyssa. Having my wife show up at my workplace like some jealous—" "Some jealous what, Louis?" There's steel underneath my calm tone now. "Finish that sentence." He sets the water bottle down hard on the counter. "Fine, you want to know the truth? Yes, I was with Carla tonight. Yes, we're close, but it's not what you think." "Then what is it?" "It's complicated. Uncomplicated for me." He runs both hands through his hair, and I can see him warring with himself. Part of him still wants to lie, to minimize, to make this my fault somehow. But I've backed him into a corner, and Louis has never been good with corners. "You really want to know?" His voice is getting harder, angrier. "You want to know why I can't stand coming home anymore? Why I dread these conversations about your day stocking shelves and organizing cereal boxes like it's some kind of art form?" Something cold settles in my chest, but I keep my expression neutral. "Tell me." "I love you, Alyssa. I do. But I love Carla's money and her family's power more. I love what she can give me, what her connections can do for my career. Being with Carla means never having to worry about money again. It means moving in circles where people respect what I do, where I'm not married to someone who thinks arranging soup cans is a career." The words hit like physical blows, but I don't flinch. I've been expecting this, haven't I? Deep down, I've known. "Go on," I say quietly. "You're holding me back, Alyssa. You're content with this mundane little life, this tiny house, your part-time job that barely pays for groceries. You don't want more, so you don't understand why I do. Carla understands. She wants the same things I want: success, status, a life that matters." I see. She makes me want to be better, to achieve more. With her, I could be running that dealership in 5 years. I could have everything I've ever wanted. He's pacing now, animated in a way I haven't seen him in months. "But you trap me in this small life with your small dreams and your contentment with mediocrity." I let the silence stretch between us, watching him realize what he's just said, what he's just admitted. "Are you finished?" I ask. He stops pacing, something in my tone finally registering. "Alyssa, I didn't mean—" "Oh, you meant every word." I stand up slowly, my phone still recording everything. "You meant that I embarrass you. You meant that my job, my happiness, my life is mediocre and mundane. You meant that I'm holding you back from the life you really want." I was angry. I said things. You said true things, finally. I look at him like I'm seeing him for the first time. "Thank you for that honesty, Louis. It clarifies everything." Louis stares at me, confusion flickering across his face. Something in my demeanor has shifted, and he can sense it but can't quite put his finger on what's changed. "Alyssa, you can't be serious about—" "About what?" "About finally understanding who you really are." I take a step closer to him, and for the first time in our relationship, he takes a step back. There's something in my eyes he's never seen before. About realizing that the man I married was just a performance? This is ridiculous. We can work this out. I love you. No, you don't. My voice cuts through his words like a blade. You love what I represented when you needed someone peaceful and undemanding, but now you need someone who can elevate your status, and that's not me. And you know what? I'm glad it's not me. He's staring at me like I'm a stranger. The gentle, understanding wife who always backed down, who always tried to see his side, who always made excuses for his behavior. She's gone. In her place stands someone he doesn't recognize. I didn't mean for it to happen this way, he says, and I can hear the uncertainty creeping into his voice. But it did happen this way, and now we both know where we stand. I smile, and it's not the warm smile he's used to. It's cold, calculating. So what happens now, Louis? He straightens up, some of his confidence returning. He thinks he's won this fight. He thinks I'm just going to roll over and let him have his new life. I guess we'll need to talk about divorce, he says, and I can see the excitement building behind his eyes. Freedom, Carla, money, everything he thinks he wants. I suppose we will, I replied. I'll call a lawyer tomorrow. We can keep this civil, split everything fairly. Of course. My voice is perfectly pleasant. I'm sure your new girlfriend will be so proud of how mature you're being about ending your marriage. He's practically glowing now, thinking about his bright future. Poor, naive Louis. He has no idea what's coming. I need you to listen very carefully to what I'm about to say. My voice is deadly calm now, and something in my tone makes him focus. From this day on, you're dead to me. Do not show up here. Do not call me. Do not even speak my name. Alyssa. But remember this, I continue, stepping closer until we're inches apart. One day, I will make you pay. The threat hangs in the air between us, but he's still riding the high of thinking he's free. He doesn't take it seriously. He sees the same woman who used to apologize when he came home late, who made his favorite meals even when he barely acknowledged them, who smiled politely at his parents even when they treated her like dirt. He has no idea that woman just died. Look, Alyssa, he says, his voice taking on that patronizing tone I've grown to hate. I know you're upset, but let's be adults about this. We both want different things. This is better for everyone. Better for everyone? Or better for you and Carla? I repeat softly. Carla and I, we make sense together. She understands my goals, my ambitions, and she doesn't care that I'm married. She knows it's just a matter of time before we make it official. Of course she knows. Of course the precious princess doesn't care about little details like existing wives. Why would she? Spoiled little rich girls like Carla Evans are used to taking whatever they want, whenever they want it. Other people's feelings, other people's marriages, just obstacles to be removed. She must be very special, I say, and he completely misses the ice in my voice. She is. She's everything I need in a partner. Sophisticated, connected, ambitious. He trails off, probably realizing he's describing everything he thinks I'm not. And she knows about me? I asked. Well, yes. I mean, she knows I'm married, but she also knows it's not really a marriage anymore. You and I, we've grown apart. She understands that sometimes people outgrow each other. Outgrow. As if I'm a phase he's moved past. Like a childhood toy he's too mature for now. How very understanding of her. I turn toward the stairs, my phone still recording in my pocket. Well, I suppose you should pack some things. I'm sure she's expecting you tonight. He blinks, surprised by how easy this is. He expected tears, begging, maybe some screaming. He expected the sweet, compliant wife who always tried to make things work. He didn't expect me to just let him go. Yeah, I probably should. I mean, if that's what you want. I pause on the first step and look back at him. Oh, Louis, when you see your girlfriend tomorrow, make sure to thank her for me. Thank her? For showing me exactly what kind of man I married. My smile is sharp enough to cut glass. And what kind of woman goes after married men? For just a moment, uncertainty flickers across his face. But then he shakes it off. He's too excited about his new life. Too confident that he's upgraded from his simple little wife to his sophisticated rich girlfriend. I'll get my things, he says. You do that. I start up the stairs again, then pause. Oh, and Louis, give Carla my regards. Tell her I said may the best woman win. He's still standing in the kitchen when I reach the top of the stairs, probably wondering why that sounded more like a threat than a surrender. Poor stupid Louis. He thinks he just won the lottery. He has no idea I'm about to make him pay the price. The front door closes behind Louis with a soft click that somehow sounds louder than a gunshot. I stand at the top of the stairs, gripping the banister so hard my knuckles turn white, listening to his car engine start and fade into the distance. Then I collapse. Not gracefully, not dramatically like in movies. I just crumple right there on the landing, my legs giving out like someone cut the strings holding me up. The sobs come from somewhere deep in my chest, that it's ugly and raw and broken. I cry like a child who's lost everything that mattered, which I suppose is exactly what I am. For 3 days, I don't leave the house. I call in sick to Thompson Distribution, my voice so wrecked from crying that Mrs. Patterson doesn't even question it. I alternate between rage and devastation, between wanting to burn down the world and wanting to disappear entirely. I replay that conversation over and over. You're holding me back. You trap me in this small life. Do you know how embarrassing it is? The worst part isn't even that he fell for someone else. It's that he made me feel ashamed of who I am. Ashamed of finding joy in my work, ashamed of being content, ashamed of not wanting more than what we had together. By the 4th day, I've cried myself empty. I sit at our kitchen table, my kitchen table now, staring at the stack of divorce papers that arrived via courier. The manila envelope sits there like a judgment, thick and official and final. Carlson versus Carlson, petition for dissolution of marriage. Even in divorce papers, he gets top billing. I sign them with hands that barely shake. My signature looks different somehow, like it belongs to someone else. Someone harder. Someone who's learned that love isn't always enough, that sometimes the person you'd do anything for wouldn't do the bare minimum for you. 3 years of marriage, dissolved with a few signatures and a notary stamp. I slide the papers back into their envelope and set them by the door for pickup. Then I sit back at my table in my quiet house and try to figure out who I'm supposed to be now. The recording is still on my phone. 10 minutes of my husband explaining exactly what he thinks of me, our marriage, and the life we built together. 10 minutes of him admitting he's using another woman for her money while that woman knowingly destroys someone else's marriage. I should delete it. Move on. Forget about making them pay for what they did. Let them have their shallow, mercenary love story. But I did not delete it. I save it to 3 different cloud accounts and email it to myself twice. Just in case, because you never know when the truth might come in handy. 6 months pass. I go back to work, focus on rebuilding my life piece by piece. My coworkers are kind but don't pry, which I appreciate. I throw myself into creating the most beautiful displays Thompson Distribution has ever seen. My cereal aisle becomes a work of art. My end caps are architectural marvels. If Louis thinks my work is beneath me, fine. I'll be the best damn merchandiser in the city. I don't hear from him directly, but this is a small town. I know he moved in with Carla. I know he got a promotion at the dealership, probably courtesies of sleeping with the boss's granddaughter. I know his parents are thrilled with his upgrade. I try not to care. Most days I succeed. But some nights, lying alone in the bed we used to share, I remember how he used to trace patterns on my back while I fell asleep. How he'd bring me coffee in the morning, made exactly the way I liked it. How he'd listen to me talk about work like it was the most fascinating thing in the world. Was any of it real? Or was I always just a placeholder, keeping his bed warm until something better came along? I don't know. And maybe it doesn't matter anymore. The divorce is finalized on a Tuesday in March. I didn't attend the hearing. There's nothing left to fight about. We didn't have much to split anyway. He gets his car, his clothes, his shiny new life. I get the house, my independence, and a 10-minute recording that could destroy everything he thinks he's won. But I filed it away with the divorce papers and try to forget it exists. Some battles aren't worth fighting, or so I think until everything changes again. The first message arrives 3 weeks after the divorce is finalized. I'm restocking the frozen food section when my phone buzzes with a notification from Instagram. A message from Carla Evans, official. Because of course she has an official account like she's some kind of celebrity. Hope you're doing well. Saw your ex at the country club yesterday. He looks so happy. Freedom suits him. I stared at the message for a full minute before deleting it without responding. She's baiting me, trying to get a reaction. I won't give her the satisfaction. but the messages keep coming. Louis mentioned you're still at the same job. That's so consistent of you. Some people are just meant for simple lives. Picked out my wedding dress today. Louis said it's the most beautiful thing he's ever seen. Well, maybe not the most beautiful, but definitely close. Louis is taking me to Cabo for my birthday. He's never been anywhere tropical before. Isn't that sweet? Some firsts are worth waiting for. Each message is a tiny knife, carefully designed to hurt. She never mentions me by name, never says anything overtly cruel, just little digs wrapped in fake sweetness and passive aggression, the kind of thing that would look harmless to anyone else but cuts deep when you know the context. I block her on Instagram. She switches to Facebook. I block her there too. She moves to Twitter, then TikTok, then starts texting me from different numbers. Just wanted to say thank you. If you hadn't been so, Louis never would have realized what he really wanted. Saw the cutest house in Millbrook today. Louis says when we're married we'll need something bigger, more elevated. You understand. Louis's parents love me. They keep saying how happy they are that he finally found someone who matches his ambition. Family approval means everything. I show the messages to my friend Maya from work, who takes one look and shakes her head. She's obsessed with you, Maya says, scrolling through the screenshots. This isn't normal behavior for someone who won. This is the behavior of someone who's insecure and needs to convince herself she's better than you. She did win, I point out. She got the man, the money, the status, everything she wanted. Then why is she still trying so hard to hurt you? Maya hands my phone back. Happy people don't do this, Alyssa. Secure people don't need to tear down their partner's ex to feel good about themselves. I want to believe her, but the messages keep coming. And then, 6 months later, they escalate. The engagement announcement appears on every social media platform simultaneously. Professional photos of Carla and Louis at some fancy restaurant, her hand prominently displayed to show off a massive diamond ring that probably cost more than I make in a year. I said yes! After everything we've been through to get here, I couldn't be happier to finally call this incredible man my fiancé. Some things are worth the wait, planning the wedding of my dreams. Engaged, love wins, finally free, blessed beyond measure. The hashtag finally free feels like a slap across the face, as if I was some kind of prison he needed to escape from. The ring is obscene, a massive solitaire surrounded by smaller diamonds, the kind of thing that screams, look how much money my man spent on me. I wonder if Louis went into debt for it. The Louis I knew was careful with money, practical. But then again, the Louis I knew wouldn't have cheated on his wife for a promotion either. The comments pour in by the hundreds. You two are perfect together. About time, you deserve all the happiness. That ring, Louis has excellent taste. Can't wait for the wedding. It's going to be gorgeous. His parents comment too, gushing about their beautiful future daughter-in-law and how lucky Louis is to have found such an accomplished young woman. Accomplished, that stings more than it should. But it's Carla's follow-up posts that really twist the knife. A series of stories showing off the ring from every angle, captioned with things like, when you know, you know. Some people settle for ordinary. I held out for extraordinary. Life is too short for small dreams and smaller diamonds, and then the one that makes my blood boil, grateful for all the detours that led me here. Sometimes you have to clear away the ordinary to make room for the extraordinary. Everything happens for a reason. Detours. I was a detour in Louis's life, a brief, regrettable wrong turn on his way to his real destination. The direct messages start again. Did you see? I'm so excited I had to share. The ring is 3.2 carats. Louis said he wanted something worthy of me. Planning a spring wedding, always dreamed of cherry blossoms. Louis said whatever makes me happy. Some men just know how to treat a lady. You should be happy for us. If you hadn't been so content with mediocrity, Louis never would have realized he deserved better. Really, you helped us find each other. I block every new number, every new account. But she's relentless. She creates fake profiles, uses friends' accounts, finds new ways to make sure I see every milestone, every happiness, every moment of the life she built on the ashes of mine. The wedding date is set for exactly 1 year after our divorce was finalized. March 15th, the Riverside Country Club. A spring garden party theme according to her Pinterest board that somehow keeps showing up in my suggested pins despite me never searching for wedding content. She posts pictures of her dress shopping, her menu tastings, her flower arrangements. Each post is a celebration of her victory and a reminder of my defeat. Choosing between salmon and filet mignon for the reception, Louis said whatever I want. He's never been to such an elegant wedding before. Can't wait to show him how special occasions should really be celebrated. The subtext is always there. He never took you anywhere nice. He never spent money on you. He never treated you like you were worth celebrating. And the worst part is, she's right. Well, he did take me to Romano's, once. But now I realize he was probably just scoping out how much he'd need to spend when he brought Carla there. I ordered the cheapest thing on the menu while he probably went all out with her. I try to ignore it all, try to focus on my work, my small rebuilt life. But it's hard to feel proud of your careful contentment when someone is constantly shoving their extravagant happiness in your face. Maya finds me crying in the break room one afternoon after a particularly vicious series of messages. "Why don't you just respond?" she asks. "Tell her to leave you alone. Threaten to report her for harassment." "Because that's what she wants," I say, wiping my eyes. She wants me to react, to look desperate and bitter. She wants proof that she won. She already won, Alyssa. She got the guy. Why isn't that enough, Cass? I don't have an answer for that. Maybe Maya is right. Maybe Carla's insecurity is showing. Maybe she needs to keep hurting me to feel secure in her victory. Or maybe she just enjoys it. Some people are cruel because they can be, because it's fun, because someone else's pain makes them feel powerful. Either way, I decide to take the high road. I stop checking social media. I change my phone number. I focus on my work and try to build a life that doesn't revolve around what Louis and Carla are doing. For a while it works. The messages stop, the posts fade into background noise. I almost convince myself I'm over it, that I've moved on, that their happiness doesn't affect me anymore. Almost. Until the day everything changes again. It's a Tuesday morning, exactly 1 year after I caught them at Romano's, when I see them again. I'm in aisle 7 at Fairway Market, the same store where Louis and I first met, restocking the cereal display I'd spent 2 hours perfecting the day before. I hear her laugh first. That tinkling, artificial sound that's become the soundtrack to my nightmares. I look up from the box of Cheerios in my hands to see them at the end of my aisle, Carla hanging on Louis's arm like a designer accessory. She's even more beautiful in person than in her carefully curated social media photos. Glossy hair, perfect makeup, wearing what's probably a $1,000 outfit just to go grocery shopping. The massive engagement ring catches the fluorescent lights and throws little rainbows across the floor. Louis sees me first. For just a moment, something flickers across his face. Guilt, maybe, or discomfort. But then Carla follows his gaze and her expression transforms into something predatory. "Oh my goodness," she says loud enough that other shoppers turn to look. "Alyssa, what a surprise!" I straighten up, still holding the cereal box. "Carla." "Louis," I said, "we were just talking about you the other day." Carla continues, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "Louis was telling me how you two used to shop here together. How quaint." Louis shifts uncomfortably beside her. "Carla, maybe we should." "Oh, don't be silly." She steps closer, and I can smell her expensive perfume. "I've been dying to meet the famous ex-wife. You know, Louis has told me so much about your little hobby." "My job, you mean?" "Right, of course. Your job." She says it like she's talking about finger painting. "It must be so satisfying, making everything look so neat and tidy." I can feel other customers starting to stare, drawn by the tension crackling between us. But I keep my voice level. "It is. I'm sure it is." Carla glances around at my display with exaggerated interest. "You know, I was just telling Louis how impressed I am by people who can find fulfillment in such simple work. Not everyone needs to aim high, right?" The insult lands exactly where she intended it to. But before I can respond, she continues. "Oh, and I have to thank you again for being so understanding about everything. It must have been hard, realizing that Louis needed someone more ambitious. But look how happy he is now." She squeezes his arm, and I see him try to pull away slightly. "But she's not done. We're getting married next month, you know, March 15th. It's going to be absolutely magical. The country club, cherry blossoms, all of Louis's colleagues and clients. His parents are just thrilled. They keep saying how proud they are that he finally found someone who matches his potential. Each word is chosen to hurt, delivered with surgical precision. I stand there holding my box of cereal while she systematically destroys whatever dignity I have left. "Carla," Louis says quietly, "we should go." "Oh, but I'm having such a nice chat with Alyssa." She turns back to me with that shark's smile. "You know, I've been following your work. Your little displays are quite cute, very consistent. I suppose some people are just meant for simple lives." That's when she does it, as she's gesturing with her hands, accidentally knocks into the display I've spent hours perfecting. Boxes of cereal tumble to the floor in a cascade of colorful cardboard, rolling under shelves and scattering across the aisle. "Oh no," she gasps, pressing her manicured hand to her chest in mock horror. "I'm so clumsy, I'm sorry." But she's not sorry, she's smiling, watching me stare at the destruction of my work. Other customers are stepping around the mess, some stopping to stare at the spectacle. Louis finally finds his voice. "Jesus, Carla. It was an accident," she protests, but her eyes are bright with malicious glee. "I'm sure Alyssa doesn't mind cleaning it up. After all," she looks directly at me, "you love this job so much, you can just stack them all up again." The silence stretches between us. I look at the scattered boxes, then at her triumphant face, then at Louis, who can't quite meet my eyes. "I'm sorry, Alyssa," he says finally, and there's something in his voice. Maybe genuine regret, maybe just embarrassment at his fiancée's behavior. I remember our last conversation, his final words to me echoing in my head, "You're dead to me." "I thought I told you not to mention my name again," I say quietly. Louis's face goes pale. He remembers. He remembers that night, that conversation, the woman who looked him in the eye and promised to make him pay. "Alyssa, don't." My voice cuts through his attempt at an apology. Just don't. Carla looks between us, sensing undercurrents she doesn't understand but enjoying the tension anyway. "Well, this has been lovely, but we really should go. Louis is taking me ring shopping today. We're upgrading to an even bigger diamond for the wedding." She waves her current ring in front of my face. "Some things are worth the investment, you know." They start to walk away, Carla practically glowing with satisfaction, Louis trailing behind her like a reluctant shadow. But she can't resist one final twist of the knife. She calls back over her shoulder, loud enough for half the store to hear, "Don't work too hard, Alyssa. Some people are just meant to clean up other people's messes." I stand there in the wreckage of my display, watching them disappear around the corner. Other customers are pretending not to stare while they step carefully around the scattered cereal boxes. A stock boy approaches with a cart, ready to help me clean up. "You okay, miss?" he asks. I nod, not trusting my voice, but I'm not okay. I'm humiliated, degraded, and absolutely furious. The high road I've been taking for the past year just led me straight into an ambush. I start picking up the boxes mechanically, rebuilding my display one piece at a time. But something has changed inside me. Something has snapped. That evening, I'm sitting in my kitchen with a glass of wine and my laptop when the notification appears on my phone. A new Instagram post from @CarlaEvansOfficial. It's a photo of her and Louis at some expensive jewelry store, her hand extended to show off an even larger ring. The caption reads, "Upgrade complete. Sometimes you have to make room for bigger and better things. Louis said I deserve nothing but the best. 1 month until I become Mrs. Carlson. Can't wait to start our new life together. Upgrade complete, bigger is better. Mrs. Carlson soon, living my best life." But it's the private message that arrives 5 minutes later that finally breaks my resolve. "Had such a fun time running into you today. Hope you didn't mind the little accident with your cereal boxes. I'm sure you're used to cleaning up messes by now. Speaking of which, you're invited to the wedding. March 15th, Riverside Country Club. I thought you might want to see how a real celebration looks. Dress code is elegant cocktail attire. I know that might be challenging for you, but I'm sure you'll figure something out. RSVP soon. Can't wait to show you what true love looks like. P.S. Who's the best woman now?" The invitation arrives the next day. Thick, cream-colored cardstock with gold lettering, elegant, expensive, everything I'm apparently not. "Carla Evans and Louis Carlson request the pleasure of your company." There's a handwritten note attached in Carla's perfect script. Alyssa, I know this might be hard for you, but I really want you there to witness our happiness. After all, you played such an important part in bringing us together. I've always believed in keeping friends close and, well, you know the rest. Looking forward to showing you what you gave up. XOXO, soon to be Mrs. Carlson. P.S. Who's the best woman now? I set the invitation down on my kitchen table and stare at it for a long time. She's using my own words against me. The challenge I threw down a year ago, thinking I was being strong and defiant. May the best woman win. She thinks she's won. She thinks this invitation is her victory lap, a chance to parade her triumph in front of the woman she defeated. She wants me there to witness her moment of glory, to see Louis choose her in front of everyone who matters. She has no idea what she's just done. I walk upstairs to my bedroom and open the drawer where I've kept it hidden for over a year. The backup phone with the recording still saved. 10 minutes of Louis explaining exactly what he thinks of his precious fiancée, exactly why he's marrying her, and exactly what kind of woman knowingly destroys someone else's marriage. I plug it into my laptop and listen to it again, just to be sure. His voice fills my quiet bedroom. I love you, Alyssa. I do. But I love Carla's money and her family's power more. Being with Carla means never having to worry about money again. She doesn't care that I'm married. She knows it's just a matter of time. You're holding me back, Alyssa. Every cruel word, every calculated confession, every moment of his mask slipping away. I saved the file to a flash drive and slip it into my purse. Then I sat down and wrote my RSVP. Dear Carla, thank you so much for the invitation. I wouldn't miss your special day for the world. I'll be there to witness everything. Warmly, Alyssa. P.S. You're about to find out. I mailed it the next morning. The best woman is about to win after all. The Riverside Country Club was exactly what I expected. All old money elegance and understated luxury. Crystal chandeliers, white linens, fresh flowers that probably cost more than my monthly salary. Everything perfectly arranged, just like Carla liked it. I arrived fashionably late, wearing the one decent black dress I owned and the pearl earrings my grandmother left me. I wasn't trying to compete with the designer gowns and expensive jewelry scattered throughout the room. I was there for a different kind of competition entirely. The moment I walked in, I spotted them. Carla was holding court near the bar, resplendent in a flowing, cream-colored dress that probably cost more than my car, her massive engagement ring catching the light every time she gestured. Louis stood beside her in his perfectly tailored suit, looking like the successful car salesman he'd always wanted to be. His parents were there too, Larry and Diane Carlson, looking more pleased with themselves than I'd ever seen them. They were finally getting the daughter-in-law they'd always wanted. Rich, connected, and nothing like me. But it was the Evans family that really caught my attention. Carla's grandparents sat at the head table like royalty, her grandfather stern and dignified in his expensive suit, her grandmother elegant in pearls and silk. These were the people whose approval Louis had been chasing, whose money he'd been courting. The religious, traditional family who valued reputation above all else. Perfect. I found a seat in the back and watched the festivities unfold, speech after speech praising the happy couple, toasting their love, celebrating their bright future together. Louis' boss talked about his dedication to the company. Carla's sorority sisters gushed about how she always got what she wanted. Her grandfather spoke about family values and the importance of choosing the right partner. If only they knew. I was sipping my wine when I saw her approaching. Carla glided over with that predatory smile plastered on her face, her dress flowing behind her like she was floating on air. "Alyssa," she gushed, loud enough that nearby guests turned to look. "I'm so thrilled you came. You look nice." The pause before nice was deliberate, calculated to remind me that I was underdressed compared to everyone else there. "Thank you for inviting me," I said, keeping my voice neutral. "Of course, I wouldn't dream of celebrating without you here to witness it." She leaned in closer, lowering her voice just enough that it felt intimate, but still carried to the nearby tables. "Actually, I have a wonderful idea. I want you to give a speech tonight." "A speech?" I asked. "Yes, about Louis and me, our relationship, how happy you are for us." Her smile grew wider, more shark-like. It would mean so much coming from you. It would show everyone that you've truly moved on and accepted that Louis found his real happiness with me. She paused, studying my face for any sign of discomfort. It would be so mature of you, so gracious. I know it might be difficult, but I think it would really help with your healing process. Publicly acknowledging that we're meant to be together. I could see exactly what she was doing. She wanted me to stand up in front of all these important people, Louis's colleagues, her family, their friends, and humiliate myself by praising their love. She wanted me to be the picture of the gracious ex-wife who'd moved on, while she got to bask in her victory. I think that's a wonderful idea, I said, and her smile became triumphant. Perfect. I'll make sure to introduce you properly when the time comes. She touched my arm with false warmth. This is going to be such a special night. She glided away, practically glowing with satisfaction. Poor, naive Carla. She thought she'd just orchestrated my final humiliation. She had no idea she'd just signed her own death warrant. I watched as Carla continued her reign of terror with the staff. "Excuse me," she snapped at a young waitress who was trying to clear empty glasses. "I specifically asked for champagne, not this cheap Prosecco. Do I need to spell it out for you?" The girl, who couldn't have been more than 20, apologized profusely and hurried away. But Carla wasn't done. "And someone needs to turn up the air conditioning. It's sweltering in here. What kind of establishment is this?" She waved her hand dismissively at another server. "Get the manager, now." I watched as she continued her reign of terror throughout the evening. Nothing was good enough. The flowers weren't arranged properly, the music was too loud, then too soft, the canapes were cold, the servers were too slow. She treated each staff member like they were personally ruining her special day. "If I wanted amateur hour, I would have hired a high school," she told the event coordinator loudly enough for half the room to hear. "This is supposed to be elegant, not some backyard barbecue." The poor woman just nodded and apologized, but I could see the frustration in her eyes. The servers exchanged glances when they thought no one was looking. The bartender's jaw was clenched so tight, I was surprised his teeth didn't crack. That's when I heard it. I was standing near the service entrance when one of the waitresses, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and calloused hands, whispered to her colleague, "If I didn't need this job, I swear I'd slap that wretched woman. I've been working events for 20 years, and I've never met anyone so awful." Perfect. I approached her quietly. "Excuse me." She turned, probably expecting another demand or complaint. "Yes, ma'am?" "I couldn't help but overhear what you said about the bride." I kept my voice low, conspiratorial. "You're not wrong." Her eyes widened slightly. "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean..." "Don't apologize. She is awful." I glanced around to make sure we weren't overheard. "I'm Alyssa Reed, the groom's ex-wife, the one she destroyed to get where she is." Her expression hardened. "That witch stole your husband?" "Among other things. She's been tormenting me for over a year, sending messages, rubbing my face in her victory. She invited me here tonight because she wants to humiliate me one last time in front of everyone." I paused. "In fact, she just asked me to give a speech about how happy I am for them." The waitress, her name tag said Maria, looked furious. "What kind of person does that?" "The kind who's been treating you and your colleagues like dirt all evening." I paused, studying her face. "You said you wanted to slap her. What if I told you there was a better way to get revenge?" Maria's eyes lit up with interest. "What do you mean? What if I told you I had a way to expose exactly what kind of people they really are, in front of everyone who matters to them?" "I'm listening," I explained quickly. "The recording, what was on it, what it would mean if the right people heard it." Maria's expression grew more shocked and delighted with every detail. "You have proof that he only married her for money? And that she knew he was married?" She asked. 10 minutes of it, his own words." I replied. "Oh my God." Maria's grin was practically predatory. "What do you need?" "Access to the sound system. She's already asked me to give a speech, so that part's taken care of." I said, "Leave it to me." She glanced around the room, then back at me. "We've all been hoping someone would take her down a peg. She's been horrible to everyone. The florist, the caterer, even the valet guys. We're all sick of her." "You'd really help me?" "Honey, after watching her treat people like garbage all night, it would be my pleasure," she said, and now she is excited. 20 minutes later, during a lull in the festivities, Carla tapped her champagne glass with a knife. The room fell silent. "Everyone, may I have your attention, please?" Her voice carried across the room, sweet as poisoned honey. "I have a very special surprise for you all tonight. We have someone here who has a unique perspective on Louis and my love story." She paused dramatically, savoring her moment. Louis's ex-wife, Alyssa, has graciously agreed to say a few words about our relationship. I thought it would be so meaningful to hear from someone who knows Louis so well, someone who truly understands what we have together. The room shifted uncomfortably. A few people exchanged glances. This was awkward even by rehearsal dinner standards. Louis looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. "Carla, I don't think—" "Don't be silly," she cut him off. "I'm sure Alyssa has some wonderful things to say about us. After all, she's had a front row seat to our entire romance." She gestured grandly in my direction. "Alyssa, would you like to come up here?" The room was dead silent now. Every eye was on me as I stood and made my way to the microphone. I could feel the tension, the confusion, the morbid curiosity about what I could possibly say. Carla's grandfather looked puzzled. Louis's parents appeared mortified. The servers were trying to hide their anticipation. I reached the front of the room and took the microphone from Carla's manicured hands. She was practically glowing with anticipation of my humiliation. "Thank you so much, Carla," I said, my voice steady and clear. "You're absolutely right. I do have a unique perspective on your relationship with Louis." I looked out at the room full of faces, family members, colleagues, friends, all waiting to see how this train wreck would unfold. In fact, I have something very special to share with all of you tonight, a recording of Louis talking about his relationship with Carla that I think you'll find illuminating. Carla's smile faltered slightly. "A recording?" "Oh, yes. Louis had some very interesting things to say about why he's marrying you, Carla, and about what kind of woman you are." I paused, letting the words sink in. "I think everyone should hear it, don't you?" Now Carla looked confused, maybe even a little worried. Louis had gone completely white. I pulled out a small thumb drive from my purse. "This is about 10 minutes long, so please, everyone get comfortable. I think you're really going to enjoy this." Maria appeared beside me as if on cue. "I'll just give this to the DJ for you," she said helpfully, taking the drive from my hands. She hurried over to the DJ booth and spoke quietly to him. He nodded, plugged in the drive, and gave me a thumbs up. The room was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. "Ladies and gentlemen," I announced, "I present to you Louis Carlson, in his own words, explaining exactly why he's marrying Carla Evans." The DJ hit play. Louis's voice filled the elegant dining room, crystal clear and unmistakably his. "I love you, Alyssa, I do. But I love Carla's money and her family's power more." The room went dead silent. Carla's face drained of all color. "Stop it!" Louis shouted, starting to move toward the DJ booth. "Turn that off right now!" But before he could take more than a few steps, a voice boomed across the room that made everyone freeze. "Don't you dare!" Carla's grandfather stood up, his face thunderous, pointing a commanding finger at Louis. "I want to hear this." Louis stopped dead in his tracks. In that moment, it was clear who really held the power in that room. And it wasn't the groom. The recording continued. "I love what she can give me, what her connections can do for my career. Being with Carla means never having to worry about money again. It means moving in circles where people respect what I do." Carla staggered backward like she'd been physically struck. Her fiancé had just admitted to a room full of people that he didn't love her. He loved her trust fund. "Do you know how embarrassing it is when clients ask what my wife does, and I have to say she stocks shelves at grocery stores? Do you know what that does to my reputation?" Carla's grandmother gasped audibly. Her grandfather's face was turning dangerously red. "Carla gets it. She understands ambition, success. Her family owns the dealership. She's connected to people who matter, who can open doors. I could be running that dealership in 5 years." The Evans family was hearing their precious granddaughter reduced to nothing more than a business transaction. And she doesn't care that I'm married. She knows it's just a matter of time before we make it official. Now the religious family was learning that their granddaughter had knowingly pursued a married man. "You're holding me back, Alyssa. You trap me in this small life with your small dreams, and your contentment with mediocrity. 10 minutes of Louis's voice methodically destroying both women, revealing his greed, his shame, his calculated use of Carla for money and status, and his cruel dismissal of the wife he'd claimed to love. When it finally ended, the silence was deafening. I looked around the room at the shocked faces, the horrified expressions, the absolute devastation of the bride and groom. Then I focused on Carla, who was standing there looking like her entire world had just collapsed, which it had. "Thank you all for listening," I said into the microphone, my voice calm and clear. "I hope that clarifies any questions you might have had about this beautiful love story." I set the microphone down and looked directly at Carla, who was staring at me with something between rage and terror. "Now, Carla," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "I have just one question for you." I paused, savoring the moment I'd been waiting for over a year. "Tell me, who's the best woman now?" The silence that followed was the kind that makes your ears ring. No one moved. No one breathed. The weight of what they'd all just heard pressed down on the room like a physical thing. Then Carla's grandfather slowly stood up. Tom Evans was not a tall man, but in that moment he seemed to tower over everyone in the room. His face was stone, his eyes cold as winter. When he spoke, his voice carried the authority of someone who'd built an empire from nothing and wasn't about to watch his family name be dragged through the mud. "Miss," he said, looking directly at me, "who are you?" The room held its breath. This was the moment of truth. "I'm Alyssa Reed," I said clearly. "I was Louis's wife when your granddaughter had an affair with him and stole my husband from me." A collective gasp went up from the room. Someone's champagne glass hit the floor and shattered. I could see Carla's mother, Grace Evans, with her hand pressed to her mouth in horror. Her father stood frozen beside his wife, his face a mask of shock and disappointment. "The wife he was still married to when my granddaughter had an affair with him?" His voice was deadly quiet. "Yes, sir." I could see the ripple of disgust go through the Evans family members, scattered throughout the room. Carla's brother shook his head in disbelief. Her aunts and uncles exchanged horrified glances. Cousins whispered among themselves, their faces full of judgment and shame. Near the service entrance, I caught sight of Maria and the other servers. They weren't even pretending to work anymore. They were openly watching the drama unfold with barely concealed glee. After hours of Carla's abuse, they were getting front-row seats to her destruction. Tom Evans turned his gaze to Carla, who looked like she might faint. "Is this true?" Carla opened and closed her mouth like a fish, no sound coming out. Her mother finally found her voice, broken and devastated. "Carla, what have you done?" Her father's face had gone stone cold. Years of dealing with his daughter's entitled behavior had clearly reached their breaking point. But when Tom Evans spoke again, even they fell silent. In the Evans family, Grandpa Tom was the law. "I asked you a question, Carla Marie Evans." "Grandpa, I can explain. Is it true?" "Yes," she whispered, so quietly it was barely audible. "Louder." "Yes," she cried, tears streaming down her face. "Yes, it's true. But Grandpa, you don't understand. I understand perfectly." He turned to Louis, who looked like he wanted to melt into the floor. "And you admitted on that recording that you're marrying my granddaughter for her money and connections." "Mr. Evans, if you just let me explain." "There's nothing to explain. I heard you perfectly clearly. You love her money more than you love her." Louis's parents, Larry and Diane, were white as sheets. Their perfect success story, son, had just been exposed as a fortune hunter in front of the most important people in their social circle. Tom Evans looked around the room at all the shocked faces, business associates, family friends, church members, everyone who mattered in their community. Then he looked back at his granddaughter. "Carla, you have a choice to make, right here, right now, in front of everyone." Carla was sobbing now, her perfect makeup running down her cheeks. "Grandpa, please." "You can stay with this man," he continued, his voice cutting through her sobs like a blade. "You can marry him, knowing what we all now know about why he's really with you. But if you do, you are no longer an Evans. You will be disowned completely, cut off from the family, the business, everything." The room was so quiet you could hear Carla's breathing. "Or," he continued, "you can end this engagement, admit your mistakes, and remain part of this family. You won't be disowned." Carla's eyes lit up with hope. "But," he said, and that single word crushed her, You will be disinherited. Completely. You'll get nothing from the family fortune. Not a penny. Carla staggered backward. You can't do that to me. I can, and I will. Tom Evans's voice was like granite. You brought shame on this family. He gestured toward Louis, who looked like he wanted to disappear. So choose, Carla. The man you helped steal from his wife or your family's money. You can't have both. The silence stretched on forever. Everyone in the room was staring at Carla, waiting for her answer. Louis was looking at her too, and I could see the calculation in his eyes. If she chose him but lost the money... Carla looked between her grandfather and Louis, tears streaming down her face. I need time to think. No, Tom Evans's voice cut her off. You choose now, in front of everyone, the same way you shamed this family in front of everyone. Louis stepped forward. Carla, baby, we don't need their money. We have each other. Do we? Carla turned on him, her voice shrill. Do we really, Louis? Because I just heard you say you love my money more than you love me. I didn't mean that. Yes, you did. She was screaming now, all pretense of elegance gone. You meant every word. You never loved me. You loved what I could give you. Louis tried to reach for her, but she jerked away. Don't touch me. Just don't. She turned back to her grandfather, her face a mess of tears and ruined makeup. I choose my family, she whispered. Tom Evans nodded once. Then this engagement is over. The wedding is canceled. Mr. Carlson, you are no longer welcome in my granddaughter's life or at my business. Louis opened his mouth to protest, but one look from the old man silenced him. Security will escort you out, Tom Evans continued. If you ever contact my granddaughter again, I'll have you arrested for harassment. Louis looked around the room desperately, but there was no sympathy to be found. His parents were already gathering their things, their faces burning with shame. This isn't over, Louis said, but his voice lacked conviction. Yes, I said, speaking for the first time since my revelation. It is. He looked at me then, really looked at me, and I think he finally understood that the quiet, simple wife he'd underestimated had just destroyed everything he'd worked for. Security appeared and escorted Louis and his parents out. The last thing I heard from him was his mother hissing, "How could you be so stupid?" Tom Evans turned to me as the room began to empty, guests fleeing the scene like it was a natural disaster. Mrs. Reed, he said, and his voice was gentler now, I owe you an apology on behalf of my family. That's not necessary. Yes, it is. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card. Please call my office tomorrow. I'd like to make this right. I took the card, not sure what he meant. You showed more grace and dignity tonight than my granddaughter has shown in her entire life, he said. I hope someday we can make amends for what she put you through. And with that, he walked away, leaving me standing alone in the wreckage of what was supposed to be a celebration. 6 weeks later. The check arrived on a Tuesday morning with a note from Tom Evans. It wasn't enough to make me rich, but enough to pay off my house and start fresh. Compensation for the pain my family caused you, the note read. I'd heard through the grapevine what happened to everyone after that night. Carla had been sent to work at her uncle's business in another state. She wasn't completely disinherited, but the majority of her inheritance now went to her brother, who would inherit the CEO position she'd always assumed would be hers. Her family's black card was revoked, and her parents cut off her shopping allowances. Apparently, she'd worked briefly at her grandfather's car dealership, but spent money like it was growing on trees until she was transferred away. Her rich friends had stopped inviting her to events. Funny how quickly people disappeared when the money did. Word was she was bitter, and still blamed me for everything, as if I'd forced her to have an affair with a married man. Louis and his parents had fled to Arizona. I'd heard through our mutual friends that his mother kept telling him Carla was stupid for inviting me. If she just left me alone, they could have been married already. And he is stupid because he couldn't control Carla. Even in exile, they still didn't understand that their problem wasn't my presence at the rehearsal dinner. It was Louis's own words. As for me, I'd started my own retail consulting business using the money I received from Tom Evans. Turns out my simple job had taught me more about consumer psychology than most people learned in business school. Maya was my first employee, and we already had a waiting list of clients. I'd also started dating David, a high school English teacher, who thought my work was fascinating and made me laugh until my sides hurt. He'd never heard of the scandal and didn't care about my past drama. The best woman had finally won, not by destroying someone else, but by building something better for herself. And that victory was sweeter than any revenge could ever be.
If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and drop a comment below. Don't forget to follow for more content just like this. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.